Hi lovelies. Before we get into this video, I just wanted to say that I made a Patreon and I am so excited that I'm going to be sharing more details about my life, especially for those who have a lot of questions about like starting a YouTube channel or like going to art school and building an illustration career and like digital art and all that stuff. I just feel like I would be so much more present for you guys and be able to, you know, have one-on-one like conversations and like answer your questions and stuff. So if you're interested, I am linking my Patreon in the description box below, and I hope that I can see you guys there. So today we're gonna be talking about how I got started on my illustration career and basically how it's going so far. It's definitely still starting. Like, I'm nowhere near where I want to be, but I feel like I'm at like a good, like, I feel like I'm finally seeing the mountain that I'm about to climb, or like I'm starting to climb it, you know? Like when I was in senior year of college, of art college, I was just like, what am I gonna do? Like, how am I gonna get these jobs? How am I gonna get freelance editorial jobs? Because that's what I thought I wanted to do. But yeah, I feel like it's finally, you know, picking up, and I just wanted to share my experience, and hopefully it's nothing, George. Don't worry, just go back to sleep. And hopefully this will make some sense to you if you guys are studying art and feeling, you know, a bit unsure of where you're gonna go. So I wrote some notes down on my phone, but I'm pretty much just gonna talk off the top of my head. And I feel like I get into tangents and rants a lot, so just bear with me, or I'm gonna have a really stressful Sunny when I edit, because I'm gonna be like, none of this makes any sense. So I feel like when I was studying art in art college, I mean, I'm still doing my master's, but when I just like was doing my BFA, the instructors would bring in like all these really well-known or like well-established children's book illustrator or editorial illustrator, and then they talked to us, but I always felt like the things they said were like just not really useful, because it feels like they've already, like, they're peaking or they've already peaked, and it's just like they're already so good, like it doesn't feel applicable. Whereas me, like, I'm not that good, so like I'm just starting out. I'm basically like you, but just a few years ahead, so I feel like my experience is a lot more relatable in a way. So I've been getting a handful of pretty nice freelance jobs. Like when I was in college, I got like freelance commissions here and there, but that was just like $50 or like $100. You know, it's not like anywhere that could sustain a living. But my first editorial job was from BuzzFeed, and I just did a simple illustration and they paid $400, which isn't much when it comes to like cost of living, but it's still something. Like $400 for like an illustration that took me half a day to do. And then my second one was back in, I think, October, where I did an illustration for Vice, and I think they paid me $600. Yeah, that was really cool. And now I'm working on a quite extensive 12 series illustration for New York Magazine, which I don't think I've shared on like my socials or anything, but I'm just so excited about that, because first of all, it's like a lot of money, and second of all, it's like New York Magazine. Like, holy shit. I think my dream is the New York Times. A lot of my peers from college have gotten New York Times job, and I look at them and I'm like, oh my god. And also I did like an illustration for a magazine in Cornwall. I think it's getting like printed out this week, so I'll be able to share it with you. And that was also really cool to do, because it's fun to like get work locally from like local publishers and people. So currently a publisher, let me actually find the name of the publisher. It's actually a fairly big publisher, I think, and I don't think I'm supposed to tell you, but I don't think it matters too much if I'm generic about it. So basically I'm doing 10 to 15 spot illustrations for the book and then a cover, and I think they're paying me $4,000 to do that. Finally, what I think is the most important thing that helped me get started into this illustration career and I started getting more and more jobs is that I found a style that I was excited and wanted to stick with over the summer. So it was just, how long ago was that? I think I found my style in August and it's March. Yeah. When I was in art school for my bachelor's, the professors were saying, like, or most of my professors were saying, oh, you don't really need to find a style, like, you have an entire life ahead of you and it's gonna change, and you just keep doing what you love and you'll be able to get it one day. And I just believed in them because I was like, okay, they know better than me. But over the summer I like sat down and I was like I know that I'm good, and I also know that I'm able to do many styles, and I have a lot of like different interests when it comes to art. Like, I like the really childish and the simple kind of styles, but I also like the fantastical and like sci-fi kind of things. So it's, I don't know, it's just really hard for me to stick to one thing. But I sat myself down and I was like, I need to just pick one thing, because, you know, as much as I do want to touch up and dabble in everything and just learn and grow and be free-spirited and all that, like, people want to see you have one consistent style and like one consistent way that you communicate through visual arts, and that's your style, and you need to find that style, that voice, in order to get jobs. Like, as soon as I stuck to that one specific vibe or look, I just started getting more and more jobs. Like, it's just, I feel like it's an equation, like, you know? But I struggled so much with finding this style. I feel like you do have to kind of dabble around and see what works for you. Like, and I don't mean it conceptually. I mean, maybe conceptually, but more on the technical terms. Literally, like, do you like a soft line work? Do you like no line work? Do you like harsh line work and just like really curvy and smooth vector lines? Like, what do you like? Do you like a painterly style, or do you like flat colors? And do you like a lot of flowers in your work, or do you like a lot of shape and texture? It's just these very specific but realistic elements that you have to think about. And so for me, I like flat colors. Of course, I like a 3D look. You know, I used to make really realistic drawings, but it's just not very, I feel like it's just not really trending right now to have like a really realistic and like rendered drawing. So I just do flat colors, and I think it's a lot easier and quicker, especially if you're working for editorial illustration, because most of the times they do want a quick turnaround time. And so I love to draw people and women, and specifically like Asian women or women of color. And I also love, he's just sleeping. And I also love like Riso print and silkscreen print textures, so I try to incorporate that into my digital illustration as well. And I love fashion, so I tend to, you know, incorporate, your head slipping, baby, there, incorporate a lot of like high fashion things like ruffles and ribbons and laces and buttons and like you know, mesh and just everything about fashion and fabric and texture. I love that, so I incorporate that into my illustration. My first illustration where I sat myself down and was like, we need to figure out a style today and like be consistent about it, was this image. I incorporated the bright colors, the line work, the bit of Riso or like print text. I think my camera annoyingly decided to cut off. I don't know why it does that. Like, let's just continue on. So after that little boy illustration, I made this illustration, which is the girl, and this is when I realized this is something that I could stick to and branch off of and just keep doing for a long time. This is actually the third illustration that I did after I like found my style, and it's still my favorite illustration to this day. Like, when I made that, I was just like, holy shit, like this is amazing. And I was just in awe because like never in my life I've stuck to a style, and just seeing me create the work that I have always admired and wanted to make, it's quite emotional, really. So after I made this image, I was like, oh my god, like I'm in an era and I am going to stick to it and do as much as I can. So I made so many illustrations. I drew every single day. Like, each of this illustration was done in like 5 to 7 hours, and I feel like that just put me at another level in terms of like being an illustrator. I don't know if that makes sense. So once you have this collection of work that is in a cohesive style, you need to make a website. And you've heard me talk about Squarespace for a while, but I am pretty much gonna dedicate this video to Squarespace because it's just so important to have an online portfolio and send out your website link to clients. So for my website, I also included like sketches and paintings and like books that I made, and I know those aren't really under my illustration style, but I still thought they were really nice and I wanted to kind of put them somewhere. But my main page though is the illustration work. Squarespace has a clean and professional look. It's super easy and image friendly. You could also connect your socials to it, and I feel like that's also important because a lot of the like art directors, they scout for illustrators on Instagram. Check out squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/purplekabocha to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Next, I'm gonna talk about reaching out to art directors and publishers. So once you have your website and your work on it, go on Google and search New York Times art director, Washington Post art director, Vanity Fair art director. I still don't know if they actually use illustrations in that, but like, just try everything. BuzzFeed art director, Vice art director, New York Magazine art director, Columbia Times, Columbia Magazine art director. Literally all the magazines and like newspapers, big or small, just keep sending your websites to them. It's sometimes a little bit difficult to find the art director's emails, but like usually when you type in like art director New Yorker, like some person would pop up, you click on them, usually it takes you to like their LinkedIn, and on their LinkedIn you find their website, and on their website you go to like their about or their contact section, and then you get their email, and then that's how you just go for it. So I usually just say, hi Mark or Julia, I'm an illustrator and this is my website portfolio. It would be amazing if you kept me in mind for future illustration opportunities. Thank you so much. Kindly, Sunny Woo. That's all you gotta do, and just keep sending them. Don't get the names wrong though. I did that once where I was supposed to send it for like, let's say Tom, and then in the name part I wrote Rachel because like I just copy and pasted. Don't do that, don't do that. Something that I also wanted to touch on is your art Instagram. That is quite important actually if you're trying to be like this modern illustrator and you're trying to get editorial work. I don't know if your professors or like teachers would tell you negative things about social media, but in my humble 22-year-old opinion, I think it's really useful. I think it's so important to grow your audience on Instagram and have like as big of a platform as you can get, because social media fame is important, unfortunately, in our society right now. And before, when I didn't really have a big following, like I stayed at like around 300 followers for a long time on my art account because I never really posted consistently. Again, like I didn't have a consistent style, so I would follow like all these illustrators that I really loved, and of course they didn't follow me back. But once I found my style, I don't think I necessarily like improved. I feel like before, like I had all these different like styles and like just ways to draw and like different mediums, but now I've picked one and just really expanded on that. I don't think I necessarily got so much better at art, but I just focused on one thing and made a lot of it. But now like I'm following these illustrators that I absolutely love on Instagram and they're like following me back, and that never happened before, and I'm just like, oh my god, that's crazy, like they actually like me too. But yeah, when you have like a bigger platform, a bigger following, it just puts you up higher on the algorithm for people to like notice you and be like, wow, you're cool, let's collab. You know, I literally wrote in my notes like seeds and sprouts. What was I trying? Can you even see this? What did I mean like seeds and sprouts? I was probably thinking of a really smart analogy. I thought it was really smart, right? But now I'm like, I have no idea what that means. Like seeds and sprouts? Like seeds and sprouts. Oh, okay, I think I know what I was trying to say. Okay, so I basically talked about editorial illustration, right? But like, let's say you don't really know what you want to do. I thought I wanted to be a children's book illustrator, but then looking back, I'm no, like in children's books it's like very whimsical and it's sometimes very clever and like obviously cute, but I don't think that suits me, like at least not now, you know. I feel like my illustrations, I like to think they have a bit more spice than children's, like it's a bit racy and like sexy and things like that, and I feel like I wouldn't be able to show that side and communicate that visually in children's books. Like that would be a no-no. So I don't think I'd want to get into children, and like children's book publishers, they would not contact me. They look at my work and they're like, yeah, no girl. But if that interests you, then like you should definitely try and go for it. But like again, what I was saying about the seeds and sprout is that when you're starting out, you don't know what you like. And I guess I still don't really know what I like. I mean, I like editorial for now, but like who knows in like 2, 5, 10 years. But like there's just so many opportunities and like different types of work in the illustration industry that you kind of just have to research and like try out different things and like plant seeds and see which of them sprouts and like which sticks to you and like resonates with you the most. Sometimes it's not about creating the work that you like. I mean, you do have to like the work that you create, but it's not 100% about that, because, you know, I really like a bit of abstract and just shapes and colors and like really wonky and like badly drawn things. Like, I love that. I look at it and I'm like, oh my god, it's so good. But I don't make work like that. And even though I do like my style, you can love a certain type of work, but like if that's not completely you, then that's okay. Like, you can admire and appreciate other people's style and still have your own that you really love. Like, you don't always have to try to be someone else. Like, it's okay to love yourself, to love what you do, and to love what other people do, and have it be separate things rather than just fighting to combine them, you know? Because okay, personally, I'll give you a real life example. Personally, I feel like I have a strong suit when it comes to drawing and like just line work in general. So that's why I do a lot of figurative work, is because that's my strength. And if I did like abstract and like wonky, badly drawn shapes and colors, even though I love that more than anything, I feel like it's not my strong suit. And for me to kind of just give up on my strength and, you know, go for something I'm not really good at but I love, it might not... It cut me off again. What is wrong with this camera? Maybe it's overheating. Okay, I'm gonna wrap this up. But like, what I'm saying is, your work might not develop as strong in a way for people to reach out to you and give you jobs. I think that's all I had to say about the seeds and sprouts analogy. But I also kind of wanted to point out that people are wired differently and we're all built differently. So, you know, you might have found your style when you're 17 and like start getting editorial jobs and like start getting freelance jobs, and that's amazing. Or you might not find your style until you're 25, 28, 30, and that's all okay, you know? But I'm just saying, like, this is what I did and this is what I feel is helpful. Popcorn. Dog's toes smell like popcorn. It's so windy and rainy outside. You know what's funny? I feel like it would be interesting to count the amount of times I said how windy, how cloudy, how rainy, how cold and miserable it is outside ever since I came to England. I mean, to be fair, New York was pretty shit most of the times. Thumbnail. Let's do a serious pose. Participate. What's that? Warning, there might be a lot of dog content on my Patreon. Okay, I'm done. I love you guys so much.